Hey guys, welcome to the Trash Picture Show. Couple of movie recommendations. Starting off with Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. This is an awesome cult movie. It's a theatrical version of the 90s TV show Tales from the Crypt, and it is bookended by the Crypt Keeper. But the main plot revolves around a character known as Breaker, played by William Sadler. You might know him from Die Hard 2. He's the main bad guy in that. He is a protector of a mystical key, and he finds himself seeking refuge in a guest house from a very dangerous, very demonic, and very enigmatic collector, played awesomely by Billy Zane. The collector decides to raise an army of demons and lay siege to the guest house. So it's up to Breaker and the assorted cast of characters to defend the guest house from these monsters, these demonic creatures. The cast in this is phenomenal. You have obviously Billy Zane, who is chewing fucking scenery. You have Thomas Hayden Church. You have Jada Pinkett Smith, Shishi Pounder, Dick Miller, and yeah, it's an amazing cast. If you get a chance, check it out. But also, if you're a fan of Evil Dead and you like creature and gore effects, this is definitely one for you. Well worth it. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, a must for any horror fan. Next up, we have a movie that made it onto a lot of people's top 10 lists of 2019, and it is Joker. This movie kicks arse. This is a very unique take on the classic DC Batman villain, and we get a very kind of sympathetic form of the Joker in no short order to Joaquin Phoenix's performance. He kicks arse as Arthur Fleck, this kind of down on his luck, downtrodden individual who slowly manifests himself into this homicidal maniac and kind of becomes a symbol of anti-authority and an anti-hero to the struggling masses. If you're a fan of the likes of Taxi Driver or King of Comedy, this is definitely one to check out. And it's no coincidence because the main producer of this is Martin Scorsese. So yeah, if you're a fan of the character, this is a very unique interpretation, but it's a very cool, grounded interpretation as well. I think if you were a fan of, say, the Lieber Mayo Joker, this might be a movie to check out. Or if you're a fan of Alan Moore's Killing Joke, this is definitely one to check out because it takes a lot of references and nods from that. Next up, we have Sherlock Holmes, Game of Shadows. I was not a fan of the first movie, but I definitely think this is a vast improvement. My main point of contention and problem with the first movie was Robert Downey Jr. He's definitely improved, but his accent is still a bit weird. He still hasn't mastered the English accent. But by and large, he still gives a very likable, interesting, compelling performance as Sherlock Holmes. Jude Law is okay. I think Watson, in any kind of interpretation you give him, he's not really an exciting character. I think the best Watson is probably Martin Freeman from the Sherlock TV show. Jude Law's Dr. Watson is kind of just this bland, kind of forgettable character. The standout, I think, in this movie is Jared Harris's Moriarty. He does a fantastic job of playing Sherlock Holmes's arch nemesis, and he's a big improvement upon Mark Strachan. I love Mark Strachan. Mark Strachan is a great actor, but I just think he was very weak as the baddie in the first Sherlock Holmes. Naomi Rapace also turns up as an ally to Holmes, and by and large, it's a lot more interesting and a lot more compelling than the first movie. So if you get a chance, check it out. I'm not a fan of Guy Ritchie's newer kind of bigger movies. I think he kind of lost his passion for filmmaking after he done the likes of the East End gangster flicks like Lock, Stock or Snatch. It's definitely seems to be a case of more style over substance. And yeah, again, it's fun to watch, but it's not a great movie, but it's well worth a look. Next up, we have Terminator Dark Fate. I have a soft spot for this movie. I don't think it's perfect. I recognize there's a lot of problems, the biggest one being that Legion is essentially another version of Skynet. Standout performances is obviously Linda Hamilton. She was the best thing in the movie. She kicked ass as Sarah Connor. and it seemed that she slipped back into the character so well. The other standout performance, I think, is Mackenzie Davis's performance as Grace, this enhanced human cyborg who is sent to protect Danny Ramos, and she gives a lot of compassion, pathos, but she's also a very imposing kind of Amazonian looking chick. You could believe she's a super soldier from the future. Um, in some parts, the visual effects are great. In others, they're really shit. I think the standout set piece for the movie is the fight in the cargo plane. But yeah, if it wasn't for Hamilton and Davis, I think I would kind of write this movie off. A lot of people might get kind of annoyed by the start of the movie, the kind of cold open. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was brave. I thought it was clever. My only issue is that essentially there's just Legion has the exact same kind of fundamentals, principles, and designs as Skynet, and doesn't offer anything new. So it's interesting, and yeah, if you're a fan of the Terminator, give it a look. You're either going to this is going to be a Marmite movie for you. You're either going to love it or hate it. But I think what would save it for the fans is Linda Hamilton's performance as Sarah Connor. And lastly, we have X-Men Apocalypse. Not the worst out of the X-Men movie, but certainly not the best. Um, this is set in the 80s, essentially 10 years after the events of Days of Future Past, and things seem to have improved for mutants. That is until the rise of Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaacs. I am really annoyed with the design of Apocalypse because he is a very dangerous, imposing character. And as me and my friends have pointed out, the Apocalypse in this reminds me of fucking Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movies. Um, you can tell Jennifer Lawrence is just getting bored by this role. Standouts for this is Michael Fassbender. Michael Fassbender, I think you could put him in a fucking a commercial for fucking sofas, and he'd give a good performance. He has a very harrowing scene in this movie, which is probably one of the many reasons to watch it. The other reason to watch it, I think, is another very fun scene with Quicksilver, where he has to rescue the occupants of the expansion. Best characters in this, I think, are Magneto and Psylocke. Olivia Munn does a fantastic job as Betsy Bodrick, Psylocke, and yeah, she looks the part. She kicks ass in this movie, and yeah, Quicksilver, Psylocke, and Magneto. They're the main reasons for watching this. Uh, I don't know why, but I can never kind of allocate James McAvoy to being the younger version of Patrick Stewart. It's just the way he holds himself. It's not the same. Whereas I could see Fassbender being a younger version of Ian McKellen. By and large, it's a fun movie. Not the best, not the worst. Certainly better than Dark Phoenix and Last Stand. But I think it's best watched with some friends and some popcorn. Lastly, graphic novel I reviewed there recently, or I read there recently, is Alien Rescue, and yeah, I was really disappointed because this was the last in a trilogy of Brian Wood's story involving Zula Hendricks, and I think Brian Wood, due to recent circumstances, I think his head wasn't in the right place when he was writing this book. The arse seems to fall out the end of the story. It just suddenly abruptly ends, and that's something I noticed with his last book as well, uh, Resistance, because I just I don't know why, but I just felt that the endings just they don't work. They just abruptly end. This one, the kind of explanation to why two characters survive is very kind of shoehorned and juxtaposed. The character of Alex Brand, or Alec Brand, I, I've, I had no emotional connection to him because he appears so briefly in the prior story, and then they want me to accept him as the main character in this comic. I just it doesn't work. Artwork Artwork isn't the worst, but it isn't the best in comparison to the likes of Tristan Jones. Jesus, Tristan Jones kicked ass. This comic, I think, it just it deserved a better artist. There are some cool kind of splash pages and stuff, but by and large, it's a bit of a disappointment. If you're a fan of Aliens and the Aliens comics, I think give this one a miss. It doesn't add anything to the current lore or mythology. It doesn't take anything away. It's just a non-story. It's just I have no connection with the characters. Zula and Amanda briefly appear, and the reasons for them surviving the events of the last comic are incredibly stupid. So I think this is definitely one maybe you can give a miss if you're an Aliens fan. So yeah, that's my review of those movies and that graphic novel. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and yeah, have a good one. Take care. Bye now.